some questions that were left in the chat. So I wanted to come back on and get those answered first. And then I want to talk about why we all need to stop being so negative. It's not just one person, or it's not just me, it's not just you. It's like a cultural thing. So I wanted to talk about that also before we go and wrap up for this live today. But I am going to keep it a little bit short because I have to travel again. So like I said yesterday on the live, I'm going to Texas this week. So I do need to head to the airport soon, but I wanted to take a little bit of time to address those questions. So yesterday, one of the ones that I loved and I didn't have time for was from Gigi.s79 on Instagram. Gigi said, "Hi, I'm 17 and I stumbled on your account. I love personal finance and investing. I was curious on whether you think I should start a custodial Roth IRA now or wait until I turn 18 and start a Roth IRA, a regular Roth IRA." Okay, I love this question. I love this question because it's showing that you're thinking about this right now and you're not even 18 yet. That's amazing. The thing to consider is like, how much time is there between you right now and your 18th birthday? Because if we're just talking about a couple of weeks, girl, just wait. Like, just wait, because a few weeks of time is not that big of a deal. We're talking about like a negligible impact on your ability to grow money and compound money in the stock market and grow wealth over the long run. But if you just turned 17 2-3 months ago and you still have almost a full year left till your 18th birthday, then in that case, I would say you should go for the custodial Roth IRA with any adult that you trust right now in your family or a close family friend, because that way you can take advantage of getting started almost a year earlier. Now, when we're talking about the stock market, a day, a week, a month doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, especially not with a Roth IRA, which is specifically meant for retirement, but has some other perks. But when we're talking about investment accounts that are meant to be for long-term big goals in life, a week, a month is not going to make a big difference, but a year can make a big difference. Starting a year early allows you to start compounding and growing wealth a whole year sooner. So I would say basically just look at how much time is left between now and your 18th birthday. That's going to be the short end of it. And also the reality is the process of changing the account to just your name when you do turn 18 or 21, depending on the state where you live, that would also affect the decision. Because if you really just want to do it all by yourself and you don't want to have an adult involved with you in the whole process, then just doing it when you're 18 is fine. But at the same time, if you feel like, you know what, I'd rather have the guidance of an adult, I'd rather have somebody that I trust help me set this up, make sure I'm doing things the right way, make sure I understand everything, and then when you turn 18, it's pretty easy, or 21 depending on your state. So for example, if you live in New York, you have to be 21 years old to become the only primary owner of your Roth IRA account if it's a custodial Roth IRA, which means if you open it now at 17, you still have to wait until you're 21. That's 5 years away versus, or 4 years away versus when you are already 18 in a couple weeks or a couple months and you open it yourself and you don't have to wait another year, 2 years, 3, 4 years to have it yourself. You'll have it yourself from day one. It will only be in your control and you will only be the only person to have access to it. So I think those are the things to consider. In terms of results in the stock market, a month, 2 months, 3 months is not that big a deal. But if it's closer to a year, then I would say just go ahead and go with the custodial Roth IRA, especially if you have an adult who is successful financially, or at least responsible financially, who is helpful, who's going to sit with you to open the account, to guide you through, and who's going to make sure that the investments that you're choosing to buy inside of your Roth IRA are low cost and well diversified. If they're going to be able to sit with you and help explain things to you, then why not take advantage of that guidance and that mentor, that custodian who's going to help you get started? Then eventually you can pick it up and do it on your own, either at the age of 18 or 21, depending on the state where you live. So honestly, I would say that's how I would make that decision. And if you want to message me and talk more about it, just slide in my DM. I'm happy to help you. But that's what I would think about. Like if I was 17 right now and I'm like, oh, should I do the custodial Roth right now? Or should I just wait until I'm 18? I'm almost 18. What does almost 18 mean? Does it mean 3 weeks? Does it mean 7 months? Those are very different timelines in terms of getting started putting a certain amount of money every single week into your Roth IRA, or every pay period, or every month. So yeah, definitely encourage you to start as soon as possible if you have somebody willing to help you. But if you would rather do it yourself and you don't really want to deal with the changing or removing of somebody's name on your account, there's no big deal in waiting a couple weeks. It's not that serious. So that's how I would make that decision. Okay, I had another comment. Let me see if I could go back to it. Let's see. How much do you recommend that we invest for children or teenagers? This is from Vivian underscore IG. You know what, Vivian? I would say this all depends on your budget. The most beautiful thing that you can do is sit down with a child or a teenager and show them how compounding works. So I would pull up a compound interest calculator and I would start playing around with the numbers. So I'm going to do this right now just so that, I can have like real numbers to show you. So I'm going to go to the Googles and I'm going to type in compound interest calculator. The first one that pops up is the best one. It's from investor.gov. That is the compound interest calculator that I always use and I recommend using because it's such a great resource. But you can also use any other one. I like the Money Chimp one too. MoneyChimp.com has a really good compound interest calculator also. But I'm going to go with the investor.gov. If you click on that link, it'll take you to the calculator for compound interest. Your initial investment, that's how much you start with. For that, let's say you start with 50 bucks, right? We're going small here. We're not putting thousands. And the monthly contribution. Well, let's say you put $10 every single Friday. So there's 4 Fridays mostly in the month. So that's anywhere between 40. If there's 5 Fridays, 50. But let's go with 40 bucks every month. So we're going to start with 50, add 40 every month. And we're going to do that for if they start when they're 5 years old and you keep doing that until they're 18, then that's 13 years. So we're going to put that for 13 years. Then the estimated interest rate is how much do you expect for this money to grow? What percentage rate every single year? Now, if you're investing in low cost diversified index funds that invest in either the S&P 500 or the total US stock market, then you can expect anywhere between 9 and 10% or 9 and 11%. It just depends. So I would personally go with the lower end or with a number in the middle. I would never use 12%, 13%. Anyone who tells you that the average of the stock market is 12, 11, 15 to 16%, that's not true. Like you can literally just Google what is the average return of the stock market in the US and you'll see it's anywhere between 9% or maybe 10%, but you will not see 12, 13, 14, 15%. Those numbers are way too high and they're not realistic. They're just going to give you inflated results in the compound interest calculator. So I would go with 9%. I'm going to put 9 here. And then this, the investor.gov calculator asks you for interest rate variance range. That basically means what if the rate is less? What if it's 8 or 7%? Or what if it's 9 or 10 or 11%? Great. If it's higher or lower, you can pick the variance. So you can see a range of answers. You can see a range of results of possibilities anywhere between, a few interest rate points less and also higher than what you put in. So I'm going to do 3-year variance. So that will be 9 minus 3 and 9 plus 3. So anywhere between 6 and 12%. I'll be able to see all the results throughout those returns. All right, so now it's going to say compound frequency. You want to choose annually because in your investment account, your brokerage account, your returns compound annually. So I'm going to hit calculate there. And right away, I can see that in 13 years, if I start with 50 bucks and I add $40 every single month, which is 10 bucks a week, and I leave this to grow and grow and grow, and I keep adding money for 13 years at a 9% rate of growth, I would have $11,170.91. Now, that's great to give to an 18-year-old for freshman year. Man, I wish my parents gave me $11,170.91 when I went off for freshman year of college. Whoo, I sure do wish. But the thing is, you have to remember this is because you started with 50 bucks and because you added 10 bucks a week. So now you can start playing around with the numbers. You can say, all right, you know what? What if I start with $100? And what if I put $100 every month? And I do this for 13 years at a 9% rate of growth that's expected. You can calculate, and now you will have $27,850.64. So instead of 11,000, you have 27,000. Okay, not quite 3 times as much, but almost 3 times as much. So the more you put in, and the more you add every week or every month, the larger the result will be, the larger your balance of your account is going to be at the end of that time frame that you've been investing for. So when you ask me, Vivian, how much do you recommend we invest? I recommend you invest as much as you can afford to invest. And if you're putting something into a 529 college savings plan or educational savings plan, there's going to be potentially some tax benefits for you at the state level if you invest in the 529 plan for your state. So research, is that true for your state? Because that helps you when you file taxes to get a little tax break. And if not, if there's no income tax benefit there, well, then that's fine. You can still just focus on the Roth IRA for your child, which is the custodial Roth IRA. Now, there's an annual limit on that. In 2025, it's $7,000. So you definitely cannot put more than $7,000. So if you do the math on that, you're like, okay, I want to make sure that by the end of that year that we've been investing, I don't pass $7,000. Well, then you have to make sure you don't invest more than $583.33 per month each month for 12 months. So that's, I would say most families are not putting $583 every single month for their baby or for their child. Even if they are earning income, that's probably a very high amount. Most families can probably put maybe 100, maybe 200, because think about it, you got to pay so many bills. You have to pay housing, transportation, food, you have to pay for clothes, you have to pay for school supplies. I mean, there's so many things, travel outside of just the everyday transportation. There's a lot of things that come up, school trips, summer camp, all kinds of stuff, babysitting. So I would say you probably aren't going to go as high as 583. But if you balling like that and you have the money, maybe your child's business is doing really well, they're acting or they're modeling, or they have a little YouTube channel like Ryan's Toys Review, making a lot of money every year. Well, then in that case, great. Max out the Roth IRA as long as the child or teenager earned at least $7,000 for their work in that year, then you can put in 7,000. But if your child is, say, is a baby model and did some modeling gigs this year and only earned $5,000 the whole year for their modeling, then you can't put 7,000 in the Roth IRA because you only made 5,000. So the government, the IRS is like, what? How does make it make sense? This is supposed to be for earned income. You only earned $5,000 in income, yet you put in 7,000. Where did this magic 2,000 extra come from that you put in? It wasn't earned income. So a Roth IRA, custodial Roth IRA, and a regular IRA, Roth IRA is for earned income, which means your child or your teenager has to have that earned income through whatever work they do, whether that's acting, modeling, social media, performing, lemonade stand, mowing the lawns, washing cars, making little bracelets, selling homemade slime, making candles and selling them. Look, I don't know. Kids are crafty nowadays, and it's 2025. You can come up with a lot of ways for children to make money or for you to help your child earn income, even if they're not like, physically laboring, right? Like you could do baby modeling, baby Gap Kids and Gerber baby commercials. All them babies are getting paid. Those babies are getting paid. Okay. So there's ways to earn that money. Just make sure that you don't put into the Roth IRA more than the child earned. And you also cannot put in more than 7,000 total per year. So you just have to learn these rules. It's kind of like when you sit down to play Monopoly, or you sit down to play dominoes, or you sit down to play spades, or whatever games you play, with your family and stuff. Like any games that you play, you have to know the rules. Otherwise, if you just sit down and start playing and think you're just going to figure it out, you're going to lose every single time. So you have to make sure you understand the rules for a Roth IRA as well as a custodial Roth IRA before you start just, opening it and throwing money in. Know the basics first. And of course, even if you just start with 10 bucks, later on you could start learning some of the rules too. So it's not a bad idea to just start, but make sure you make it a priority to learn the rules, because the IRS will come for you if you break those rules, or if you get audited and you can't prove that your child legally earned that income, you're going to be in trouble. So just make sure you're doing everything correctly. Record keeping is on point. You have accounts for all of you've done some accounting for all of the earned income. Make sure it's going into a checking or savings account in the child's name or in the teenager's name. All of these things are important to make sure that you're speaking span and you're not going to have anybody from the IRS coming for you. All right, that's super important. Okay, and then also compound interest calculator, a great resource. I would definitely recommend using that. If you haven't played around with the compound interest calculator, start doing it. It's a quick exercise, probably take a few minutes to do a couple different scenarios. Oh, wow, if we put $10 more every month, we can grow another extra $1,000. If we put in $100 more, then we can grow it another 5,000. You'll be able to see those numbers and how they impact your account balance based on how much you're putting in, how often you're putting it in, and how long you leave it in there to grow without withdrawing any of it. That's the key. You just got to keep adding, buying, and do not withdraw until the actual time comes for the goal, which has been achieved, whether that's going off to college, whether that's buying their first home and using some money from there for their first down payment, whether it's starting their business, whatever it is, you want to make sure you don't take money out until that goal has been reached, or until it's time for you to pay for that goal. All right. Hope that makes sense. And I hope that was clear. All right. Let me check the chat. Safe travels. Thank you, Anli. I appreciate it. Manu says, hey, what's up, Manu? Let me know if y'all have any questions in the chat. I'm gonna take a minute to just talk about the topic that I had in mind for this session, for this live, because it's been like bugging me a little bit. And it's this idea of like how negative we are. Maybe it sprouted from the fact that as I'm scrolling through all my reels on Instagram, I'm seeing so many negative comments. And also on YouTube, a lot of you guys have been commenting like, what kind of job is a 10-year-old going to get? Oh my God, get out of here. This is ridiculous. It's like, what do you mean? There's so many jobs that kids can get. But what's frustrating to me is how quickly we jump to being negative and saying, this is ridiculous. This is so stupid. Kids can't work. Babies can't work. Instead of saying, hey, I'm curious. What do you mean by 10-year-olds working? I haven't heard of that. What do you mean? Like, what kind of jobs can a 10-year-old do? Actually come from a curious place, keep it positive, and learn something instead of coming on here to say negativity, to bash, and to be hateful in the comments for no reason. I think this just comes from a culture of negativity in general. Like, there's studies that show that you are much more likely to pay attention to a commercial or an ad if it's negative versus if it's positive, which is so sad because we always want to complain about how things are toxic. The news is always negative because that's what y'all click on. So of course it's gonna be more negative because they know that it works. We have to actively fight against the constant negativity that comes into our mind and replace it with positive thoughts, replace it with positivity. And the only way to do that is to catch yourself and rewire your brain. I talked about this a little bit already in one of my first lives, like early June, which was about neuroplasticity. The idea that your brain, you can change it. It's malleable. You can really force yourself to start thinking new thoughts. So for every negative thought that you have, oh, I'm never going to be rich. I can never make that much money. That's not in the cards for me. I'll never be wealthy. Immediately, if you catch yourself having that negative thought, reframe it, rethink right in that moment, change it and go, actually, I could be that wealthy if I were to take advantage of my talents and skills, or increasing my skills by getting trainings, be getting certifications so I could become more skilled, so I can become, more likely to get a raise, or more potential, have more potential for higher pay. Or I could start a business, or I could, just start learning about entrepreneurship. There's so many things that you could think instead of, oh, that's never going to happen for me. Reframe it in your mind. I think the biggest thing is just how negative we are. And especially when it comes to money, because if you just sit down and think for a second, what are all the different things that people say about money? Like just little sayings and little expressions and idioms and stuff that people throw out. Money is the root of all evil. More money, more problems. That costs an arm and a leg. We don't have that kind of money. We don't got McDonald's money. Money doesn't grow on trees. Like, I can't think of any positive money messages or money mantras or slogans that I've heard over and over and over again growing up from everybody around me, my family, my friends, the community, the culture, social media content, anybody. It's very difficult for me. I had to sit down with a pen and paper and like just think for hard and long to see if I could come up with a positive phrase that most people would know, that a lot of people go, oh yeah, I heard that before. They're all negative. Scared money don't make money. I just feel like there's so much negativity around money. When we say more money, more problems, why don't we say more money, more opportunities? Because that's actually true. But we don't say that. We focus on the negative. So I really think like this is just a little call to action to you, because I feel like I've done this in my life. And if anybody's watching and you've done this too, please hit me. Go to the comments and write how you've done it and what are some of the things that you do, because for me it has tremendously changed my mentality, my mental health, my financial health, right? Like so much about my day is so much more positive just because of the way that I think now versus the way that I used to think. I used to think negative thoughts all the time. Then I started reframing and recreating the thoughts to be positive right in the moment. I would catch myself and fix it. And now I just skip the negative thoughts. I don't even use my brain for negative thoughts that much anymore. I just jump straight to the positive because I'm so used to fixing it. So I might as well just do that. And my brain has created new pathways for those thoughts to constantly come to me. I am worth this. Yes, I can earn that much money. No, I do have the skills, I do have the talents. And if I don't have the skill yet, I have the capacity and the potential to learn whatever skill that I need to learn. These thoughts are so much more beneficial for you every single day, little things, but also in the grand scheme of things when it comes to your money, the vision that you have for your life. Like, I know it sounds a little woo woo, but I'm telling you, this affects you so much. And it's a testament to what I'm saying. If you just scroll through some of my YouTube videos and look at the comments, or my Instagram reels and look at the comments, real negative. Y'all don't frame things positively. Y'all don't ask out of curiosity. Y'all don't seek to understand. Y'all just be in there cut and ready to just diss me, ready to just call me stupid, ready to say that this is ridiculous, ready to say, how can she say children should be working? Children should not be working. Okay, listen, I think you're just imagining like a factory that's like taking advantage of child labor laws and like just putting a bunch of little kids to work in a factory, like in a coal mine or something. Like, no, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about you as the adult, the parent, or the older sibling, or the auntie or uncle, creatively helping your child, the child in your family, the child that you love, to generate earned income. Generating earned income doesn't always have to be through hard physical labor. That's another negative mindset or mentality that we have. I say we because I mean, in particular, a lot of low income communities, that we believe that in order to work, in order to earn money, you have to get your hands dirty. You have to go out there and do physical labor. And that's probably because we've seen that so much with our parents and our grandparents. But understanding that it's the 21st century. Technology is just like expanding and increasing in what we're capable of using technology for so fast and so far and wide. You can find tools with technology that can allow you to grow, to generate income without you having to go and get your hands dirty or do backbreaking, unforgiving physical labor. Right? I think it's a new generation. A lot of these kids are on TikTok or on YouTube generating income and revenue. Think creatively. Don't always go to that dark negative place immediately. And if you are doing that and you catch yourself doing that, let this be an invitation to you to come to my positive party. All right, because it's way better on this side. I promise, it is way better on this side. All right, y'all, that is my little message. I don't see any live questions here. But let me see, let me check my Instagram, because for some reason, Bori Truck, her at underscore Nat says, do you have this information available in Spanish? Thanks. You know what? I personally don't yet have much translated to Spanish, but it is a big goal of mine to get my book translated to Spanish and to get a lot of my video content in Spanish. So what I would recommend for you, so for now, is to start looking at Spanish language content that already exists. If you go on YouTube and type in finanzas personales, you will find so much incredible content about personal financial literacy and financial education in Spanish already. And also my girl Janice Torres Rodriguez has a really good book that she's already translated to Spanish, and some of the other financial literacy books that are really classic and have been around forever have already been translated to Spanish. So check those out in the meantime, and then I will blast on a live soon once my book is available in Spanish, because that is definitely something that we've been trying to get into the works for a minute. All right, let's see. I have a SEP IRA. It's been life-changing. NYE.pest. Congratulations on getting that SEP IRA set up. I'm telling you right now, any IRA that you set up, you can buy index funds inside of it. I want y'all to be clear on that. I got some questions about, well, what if it's this? What if I invest in a SEP IRA instead? Or what if instead of getting index funds, what if I open a Roth IRA? And those kinds of questions always confuse me, because it shows me that you think that that the account is an investment. So just make sure you clarify, like the account, a SEP IRA, a traditional IRA, a Roth IRA, a traditional 401k, a Roth 401k, a 403b, a 529, a HSA. These are all account types. And inside any of those accounts, you can use the cash inside of the account to buy index funds, or to buy stocks, or to buy ETFs, exchange traded funds, or to buy bond funds. So really just separate in your mind like the account and the investments that you can buy inside the account, which I made a whole reel just about that one. Money, money, money. Yes, Spider72. We like money over here. We're not afraid to say that. We're not negative over here, positive, right? I deserve money because money allows me to live with dignity and to give back to my community. I think it took me a long time to be comfortable saying, I like money. Money's good. Money allows me to help others. Money allows me to live a more dignified life. Money allows me to help my parents. Money allows me to create an after school program and fully pay for it. Money allows me to donate my books to schools instead of having to sell them. Money allows me to do so much more to make the world just a little bit of a better place because I'm in it. But with absolutely no money, or with only the amount of money that you need to get by, you're not able to do those things with money. So or if you see my message, say hello. Hi, Gulshin underscore Coley underscore GK. What's up on Instagram? I see your message and I'm saying hello. All right, Noemi 711 on Instagram. Any advice for maintaining or continuing to grow your savings after someone gets laid off? Would you suggest still investing during that time? First of all, if you've been laid off, you should immediately contact the unemployment division in your state and file for unemployment, because that's what is there for. Every time you were paying, getting paid in your paycheck, you were paying into a tax system that uses some of that money for unemployment and labor. And that now can come around and help you now that you're not employed. So don't be afraid. Don't be ashamed. Don't think, oh, no, this is like a government handout. No, it's not. You paid into unemployment with a little tiny piece of every paycheck you were getting from your job, so that if in the event you lost your job and you needed to rely on unemployment, you've been contributing to that pot, and now you get to take a piece out of it until you move on to your next job. So first of all, file for unemployment as soon as possible, like right away. As soon as you find out you're laid off, immediately file for unemployment. And then the second thing I would say is check your savings. Like, how are you looking? Do you have enough to hold you down for a month, 2, 3 months? How much? And cut down your budget to a bare bones budget so that you're not like bleeding out money and using up all your savings. And 100%, it is okay to pause your investments until you get a new job again. Why? Because when you think about the Roth IRA, especially, which we've been talking about a lot, it's for earned income. So if you're no longer earning income, you can hit the pause button, knowing that once you start earning income again, you're going to come right back into that Roth IRA and continue to contribute. Ain't nothing wrong with that. I want y'all to understand there's absolutely no shame in any of this. Life happens, and it's better to be prepared and to understand what steps you need to take and fully ready to go ahead and do this stuff to be better off, rather than sit around, crying, being negative, saying this is ridiculous, and I'm not going to take advantage of these opportunities or these resources available to me, like unemployment, right? Or like your emergency savings account. That's what it was there for. If you have savings, it was there for you to use it in an emergency. So it's okay if you start taking a little bit of savings out, and it's okay if you pause your investments until you get a new job, and it's okay if you start telling everyone that you know that you're looking for work right now, and if they know anybody who's hiring, to please connect you. It's okay. That is life. Capital L, capital I, capital F, capital E. All right. And it happens. So I just don't understand this constant negativity around stuff about being unemployed online. It frustrates me. Like, it's not on you. You just have to now take every step that is within your control and try to move ahead. And as soon as you do get a new position or a new opportunity, you can put everything back in place to how it was. You can bump back to a regular budget instead of a bare bones budget. You can start putting back your savings that you used. You can set up your investments to start automatically contributing again, because everything's back to normal, or as close to back to normal as you can get it. That's what I would say. All right, let's see if there's any other questions. No, I don't have any other questions. Amazing. All right. Well, I know this was earlier than I usually go live. I usually go like in the evening, but I do have to travel. So since I'm heading to the airport, I wanted to get it in before I head out. I'm going to wrap this up. I see one comment from HT Bing on YouTube that says, it's easier to be negative to things that are challenging rather than accept personal responsibility in our circumstances. Oh, it's not my fault. It is a plague. Yeah, I think part of it is that it's not my fault, but because it is important to take personal responsibility in whatever amount of involvement you had in the issue or the problem or the challenge. But I also think it's deeper than personal responsibility. It's much larger. It's a cultural and systemic problem. And I wouldn't say necessarily systemic, but more so cultural, in terms of the way that we operate as people, as American people in American culture. We constantly think negative or say negative, or we repost the negative stuff, or we comment on negative things, or we click on the negative article. That's just what gets sensationalized, and that's just what works on social media, is negative headlines. So I think we have to constantly just be super hyper aware of the negativity and be ready to catch ourselves, take corrective action, and start to attempt to be positive, because this is more important than ever before when it comes to children. Research shows that neuroplasticity, changing your brain, is so much more difficult the older you get. It's so easy to do it when you're little. When you're 3, 4, 5 years old, your little brain is like a sponge. That's when your job as a parent, your job as an older sister or brother, your job as an auntie or uncle or a big cousin is to overflow that little kid's cup with positivity, positive sayings, positive messages, you know, tell them that they're really hardworking and that you think it's really great that they've been reading and researching, or that they're really strong and that you really like that they keep on, running and jumping and experimenting with different things and getting stronger by doing things, but just positive instead of framing it negatively. Because what happens is from that young age, we hear way more negative things than we hear positive. For example, I have my master's degree in early childhood education, and one of the things I remember learning in that early childhood development class I took as part of that program was the way we talk to children is always negatively framed. So when you see a kid that is jumping on the couch, you say, "Stop jumping on the couch. Don't jump on the couch." Stop and don't, two negative words. Instead of saying, "The couch is for sitting. Sit down on the couch, please. Sit down." And what the couch is for, those are not negative things. They're just facts and just requests. "Sit down, please," is actually positively framed. So we have to, as a culture, stop going straight to negative actions, negative thoughts, negative words, starting as young as little babies and children who are doing things they don't know any better. It's our job to tell them positively so that when they start getting a job, getting money, making independent decisions, to interacting with other kids at school, they're not immediately negative, 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 because that's all that has been inputted into their little brains. And so that's all they know to output. If we input positive, then we can output positive. So that's what I think is so important, especially when it comes to money. The more positive money messages, the more positive money mantras, positive money decision making, positive examples of saving up for a big goal, saving up for your birthday party, saying, "Oh, you know what? Right now we don't have enough money for that, but what if we put a savings plan together and we color in a box every time we save another $10? Then when we hit $100, we'll have the whole grid colored filled in with colors, and we'll get to go buy the thing that you want." These are positive ways to frame things instead of, "Put that toy back. We can't afford that." You know, Flip it to something positive so that you can teach them positivity from a very young age. I think that's kind of the way to go. I've worked with kids for many, many years. I got my master's degree in 2013. That's over 10 years ago in early childhood development. And I used to teach third grade and fourth grade. So interacting with children is in my wheelhouse. Okay. It is something that I'm very good at. But even I still struggle sometimes with going straight to the positive. Sometimes I'll have a negative thought and I got to catch myself real quick and correct it and flip it to something positively worded or positively phrased. And sometimes it just means you got to say sorry. As an adult, don't be so egotistical, so in your high horse that you can't say to a kid, "I'm so sorry. You know what I meant to say was this," and just correct it, right? Showing them by example that when you're doing something that's not, 100% right, you can fix it right in the moment. All of these things I think start early, just like a custodial Roth IRA and a 529 plan. You got to start early. It's all holistic. It's not just with money. It's mental health, it's financial health, it's physical health. It's all of these things that we start instilling into children very young. And I just think we need to be more aware of how we do it. So I didn't mean to talk about like raising your kids. I know people get really sensitive about that, and I don't have children of my own. But again, very experienced with children from teaching, and also from I have 10 nieces and nephews. So I'm about it. I don't just talk about it. I be about it. But I do think it's something cultural. So it's not just personal responsibility. I do understand where your point is coming from, but I don't think we can just blame it on personal. Take personal responsibility. It's all on you. Like, no, it's as a culture we do this, and we all need to shift the way that we talk. And journalism needs to be more positive, and there's so many things that affect our psyche that need to be reframed to be more positive. um, all right. If I only have 5,000 in savings, is it best to leave it in a savings account with 3.5% APY, or is there a better place for it? I'm getting 4% right now. If you're not getting 4%, I would say you could probably get like 0.5 more. But I will say if the Federal Reserve starts to lower interest rates pretty soon, you're going to start to see that rate drop. So I don't know if it makes sense for you to keep jumping around to other savings accounts, just to try to get a little interest here or a little interest there. But if you do 0.05, percent, and then you kind of look to see, or 0.5%, you can probably see how much in a year you'll get and decide if it's worth it. So 0.5% more on a $5,000 balance is 25 bucks. So at the end of the year, do you want to get an extra $25, or do you feel like, it's not worth it for me to change accounts, have to close this other account, transfer the money into this new account, readjust my financial system so that I can start contributing savings to that account instead of the old one. All of that to be able to get an extra $25 by the end of the year, because these interest rates are annual on an annual basis. So if you go from 3.5 to 4%, great, you just bumped up your rate, but understand that we're talking about $25 on a $5,000 amount. Does it make more sense to increase your income? Does it make more sense to generate more monthly income somehow, pick up a side hustle, create a business? What else can you do instead of chasing a $25 annual amount? But at the same time, every little bit helps. So it really depends on your situation, but the way you think about it, it could be, yeah, that's worth it for me. I'm going to go ahead and change it so I can get that, because I'm going to keep adding more to the account. So it's 5,000 right now, but eventually it'll be 10,000 and 15,000. So then it becomes $50, $100. So if that is worth it for you, go for it. Change the account. Just Google right now 4% APY high yield savings. And a lot of robo advising platforms have savings accounts too. Don't just look at the traditional online banks or your traditional major banks. Look for all of the different accounts. And as long as it's FDIC insured, it's one that you can trust.